Hello, folks, and welcome to the UK Games Expo live stream. Feels like barely a moment since we were last here, Kate.
Yes, yeah. I mean, apparently we do sleep and don't actually live on Twitch, but
Yeah, no,
there's a
well,
thing.
some of us might not live on Twitch. I don't know. I think
Yeah, okay,
I've
no,
started to live
Millie
on
definitely
Twitch.
lives on Twitch. I'm a hobo. I visit Twitch, so
Twitch hobo is very different to the normal gaming kind of murder hobo. I think I like a Twitch hobo better. Um, my name's Millie, and with me this week is, as always, Kate, UK Games Expo Marketing Manager. And we are joined today by Jamie from DoodleMeeple. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's wonderful to be here and see both of you. And Kate and I have talked a little bit about DoodleMeeple in the past. Millie, this is probably your first exposure to
Yeah.
our new thing. So yeah, no, thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure to be here. Having been to UK Games Expo, I was pretty excited to have the opportunity to come and speak to you guys. So
Oh,
see that's always wonderful. So it was a friend of a friend put me in touch with
that's
you,
right.
and and he was like, oh yeah, he's done gaming and things and this kind of blah, and I looked obviously face stalked you because that's what people do these days
Yeah,
before making
absolutely.
contact,
It's
and I
2020.
was like. And I was talking to Richard, one of my bosses, and he's like, "Has he been to the expo?" And I turned the screen around, and there's like expo pictures, and you understand, and blah blah blah. I was like, "Yeah, I think he's got a good idea." I was like, "Oh, that's good. That's always
Yeah,
nice."
it's good. Yeah, I'm not an imposter. It's all good. Yeah, no,
No, it's
I
excellent.
really enjoyed it there. It was great. I took advantage of one of your kind of first timer stands, which I thought was
oh,
like just to give you a little positive plug. I thought it's fantastic value for kind of like for someone who is new to it and stuff. And I'd definitely encourage anybody who is wants to kind of get some eyes on their game and stuff like before doing a Kickstarter to go there because it was tremendous. And the signups that I got. Not only did I get signups for the email, kind of like for when it went live and stuff,
Yeah.
and built my email list, which was great. But also, what I thought was incredibly valuable was the photos that you saw of me
Mm.
standing on the stand, like demonstrating stuff, and that stuff all went onto the Kickstarter. That stuff got chopped up into videos and bits and pieces and what have you. So it like that sort of content is invaluable, and you can't get it unless you're there. So and the connections I've made as well, and also being an artist, doing a little kind of like schmoozing to get some new
Yes.
jobs was great too. So kind of like and all of the outside of the kind of like event stuff, kind of like gaming and stuff afterwards is great because everyone's there to have a good time. So yeah, definitely
Awesome.
if you're in a position where you're releasing a game, then you should definitely take advantage of that stand. It's great.
Thank you. That's tremendous to hear as well.
No worries. Yeah.
oh, it's awesome.
S-
You
s-
when you
I was
came
going to say,
along.
so
Oh,
apart from being fun to say, um, what is Doodle Meeple?
Do
Do
you
you
know
want to
what?
give us a quick
I should have got my
rundown
I should
and
have got
then,
my mum on here because she asked me how the company's going every so often, and the
yeah.
name the name is different every time she asks me. Kind of
Well,
like so that's great. I should have kind of I really wish I could have recorded it and got a montage of her just kind of trying to
it'll
sort of
be
pronounce it. It would have
awesome.
been great marketing, I think. Doodle Meeple is a new platform we launched a couple of weeks ago, well, a week and a half ago, to connect board game publishers or new designers and the people they need to make their board games. So, for example, if you need an artist or a graphic designer, then we've got you covered. We've also got rules editors and game developers and playtesters, right through to kind of marketing your game as well. So, if you are someone who is excited and passionate about game design, but then kind of is a bit worried about the sort of social media and marketing aspect, we've got people who will kind of cover those bases for you as well. So, what we do is we're currently building our creative base at the moment, which is growing sort of daily. And creatives are anything from those artists through to marketing and stuff. So it doesn't necessarily mean visual design. It's everything that you might need. And then our creators, which will be the people who are making games, can go on there and then create a brief. And put that out to the people that they're interested in working with to basically find people that they can help with their game. The difference with us is that, and this is kind of like, so to give you my background, I've been an artist for sort of 10 years commercially, and about sort of 6 or 7 of those I've been working in board games. And then in 2018, I released my own board game as well, which I showcased at UKGE. Um, and in both of those kind of like processes, I found that it can be quite difficult to meet people. I ended up doing pretty much the entirety of my game from the illustration side, design side, marketing side myself, which was great, and it was a great experience and stuff. a lot of people don't have the time. I mean, because I'm freelance, I could allocate the time to do that. And a lot of people don't have that time. They maybe don't have the skills or the connections, and all of my connections came through my 7 years of experience, which really helped. But not everybody starting out has those. So it's kind of it's a way to be able to put that out there. Now, from my experience of sort of going through the art industry in board games and what have you, there's likes and dislikes and how that process goes, and we tried to kind of tick all the boxes that kind of were relevant to kind of the board game industry, so and what would make the process a lot smoother, in my opinion right now. And this is how I mean, the early days of kind of like trying to get into the sort of commercial side of art were just crazy. Just a lot of kind of like, I'm ashamed to say, kind of cold emails to people, kind of those undesirable things that kind of like, you're like, I'll get back to that later sort of thing. But if you're as keen as and as passionate about kind of doing something, then you will try everything to do it right. So kind of that's what I did, and I kind of learned the hard way that kind of it's a long road to kind of make connections and stuff.
Yes.
And a lot of time spent on those horrible soulless job boards that you're just sort of kind of like just blanket applying to everything and what have you. So we made DoodleMeeple with that in mind, that we wanted creators to go on there and actually choose a handful of people that they were interested in hearing from. So rather than kind of just sticking a job up and having loads of like irrelevant people kind of apply to it, we wanted DoodleMeeple to be a place where a creator like fell in love with people that they wanted to work with, and then could approach those people with a brief and invite a handful of people to the same brief, and then they would hear back from those people, and in turn saving them time of kind of not having to reply to a whole lot of nonsense at times. The creatives also have the opportunity, to know that you are desired by the creator to work with is much more exciting than having this kind of like, again,
Yes.
a cold job
And
board.
it starts building a relationship between people as well,
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
it?
much more
We've
personal.
heard from both publishers and artists saying that what you need is you need to have that relationship together. And there might
Definitely.
be things where, because at that stage you can say, I think we could do this, and the artist can say, well, what about like this instead? And also it's knowing with each other to say, you know what, I don't think I'm right for this bit, but my mate is really good for this as well. So
Absolutely.
you get that
But
recommendation as well.
I mean, you're totally right. You get your foot in the door, and the network just builds. Like, it's a very, very small community. Kind of like when you get sort of like your foot in, I think, kind of like, and when I say small, it's big still. But like,
Yeah.
people know people. You and I kind of just met through somebody else, and
Yes.
then and then you introduced me to Billy from Mojo Nation as well, and
Who knows
kind
everybody.
of who knows
Yeah.
everybody. So
Yeah.
it's great, and kind of like, and if you're cheeky like me, you continually kind of sort of say, do you know anybody else? Do you know anybody
Yeah,
else?
yeah.
And then kind of like, and then so it's great. So that's definitely the way forward. And you're right. I think kind of for me as an artist, I can categorically say the best work that I produce is when I have a great rapport with the person I'm working with.
Yeah.
And that's not to sound kind of sort of like, I don't know, like, if we fall out, it's going to be terrible or what have you and stuff, but if you're excited about something and someone's kind of like, you're kind of like, you're in this sort of kind of passionate whirlwind of kind of doing things, and it's sort of like, oh God, you just want to put more time into it. And it just, really sort of snowballs from there into kind of like a really sort of great
It
kind of
feels
project.
more like a shared project than
Definitely.
I must do this job. And
Yeah.
that's always the motivation is obviously better if it's a, hey, let's collaborate on this thing.
Absolutely.
Than,
Yeah.
oh my God, do my homework.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah. I've got to go and do the day job. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. I and the cool thing, just kind of like throw back to DoodleMeeple and what we tried to kind of achieve with that is that there is a messaging system on there, so kind of you can kind of send files to each other and stuff, and kind of show progress, and even kind of when you're in the quotation stage, you might have to kind of like clarify a brief with a client or with a creator, should I say, and there's the means to do that on there, so you can start to build that rapport and stuff. And I think kind of sort of like, again, if you're cheeky like me, you will try and use that to your advantage when you're kind of pitching to clients to kind of build a rapport, to sort of say, hey, like kind of, I'm a good guy to work with and chatty and what have you and stuff, rather than sort of like someone who maybe, a little bit like kind of the whole adage of the artist being kind of like a hermit and this, that, and the other and stuff. I think kind of like those days of commercial art, you can't do it anymore. You can't hide away in a room. You've got to put yourself out there and do it. But as I say, I keep talking about it from an artist's point of view. That's because I'm an artist. We do host like everything from art to through to marketing and game design and everything. So but I think we're trying to keep it kind of as open as possible, and those kind of the sort of the way you write a brief and all that sort of stuff, and input it into the system is kind of friendly towards everything. So it's not just kind of sort of like, create a profile and it's very artist centric. It's it's trying to find ways of kind of showcasing people's work, whether they're a creative writer or a playtester or whatever. So yeah,
Sounds cool. Sounds really cool.
thank you.
Very exciting.
Yeah, we're really pleased. It sort of feels like it's something that I mean, when I speak to a lot of people who I have worked with, or kind of other people who publish games, and they're like, I can't believe there's nothing really like this. I mean, there's stuff out there. There's some great resources and stuff. Kind of like ArtStation and what have you, to kind of find people. But a lot of those people don't necessarily work in board games. A lot of those people aren't looking for work. And what we try to do is kind of curate the people who have experience, who are professional, who have a good reputation. And the great thing is what we're going to be doing is vetting the system the entire time. So, if there are maybe sort of like really positive relationships with people, then obviously we can kind of like push those to the top and really kind of shout about those people. If there's negative, kind of interactions, then we can mediate those, and we can, kind of begin to ensure that we have the right people on the system. So kind of, when you're going to DoodleMeeple, that kind of, because it's a daunting project. Whenever you make a board game, it's it's a big deal. So
and there's a lot of emotion attached to it as well, because this is often someone's hours and hours and hours of specific work after maybe even years and years of what about this, what about that, and actually getting down to it. So you need to be mindful, I suppose, that this is somebody's baby.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
On either side, so it's very interesting as a venture, I think.
I think so, and I think kind of sort of going back to the rapport and stuff. You like as a publisher, like from a publisher standpoint, when I made my game, you're literally about to like kind of lay yourself bare when you put your game out there, and kind of sort of like I think it took me 5 years to put Hero Master together, kind of like from start to finish, because I think I was a complete novice and kind of like made so many mistakes along the way. But I think kind of like you take those 5 years and then you kind of cast it out in front of everybody. You kind of want to be in a place where you're feeling really positive and upbeat and stuff. So if you have a great relationship with the people that you're working with and kind of have a good experience with that, then I think that puts you in the best possible position to kind of be able to do that.
Good confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, too right. And also kind of like, a lot of people who work on the projects and stuff, they've got your back when you go out there, and they shout about it on social media and stuff, and that's always a benefit too, because it's a bonus to having maybe kind of an artist or maybe a social media guru certainly on there to kind of help you out, but someone who's got a big following is certainly really helpful. So that's an added bonus too.
Yeah. So should we have a look at the website? Should we see
absolutely.
what it's all about?
Yeah. Cool. So I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
So this is, once you create a profile, you will see this screen and you'll go through a couple of steps. So you'll begin to create your profile and fill it out. So this is my artist one. So I've got myself on there right now, and I'm kind of sort of available for work, but I'm kind of just trying to oversee everything at the moment. So although I'm there, I will just be telling anybody who sends me a job, I'll probably say, swap me out for somebody else right now. Yeah, absolutely. So sorry, I'm whizzing up and down it really quickly. So you've got your banner at the top and your profile picture, and then a little bit about you.
And these are all things that you can upload with your own artwork and things, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing is when you create a profile, you'll kind of start typing, and then more bits will kind of show. So it's not kind of really daunting to start off with. Once you kind of create your little generic bit about yourself, I'm registered as a creative and a creator, which means that basically I can approach people to help me make games, or I can be asked to help people make games. So you can be one or the other or both. And you can change that at any time. So if you were, for example, a creative writer who was offering their services and eventually you decided to make your own game, you could then change that to become a creator and start looking for people too. You then get to start adding skills, and you can add videos and images and stuff to your gallery. You can add projects. So what I'll do is I will kind of flip over to the creative profile and creative roster, and actually show you me from someone else's point of view, because that'll probably
awesome. Go
flick back. Millie, you're absolutely right. I should have mentioned that. This is our creative roster. So these are just the artists that we have, and then we also have 3D sculptors, graphic artists, so graphic designers,
Awesome.
world builders who will write your kind of like, if you're doing a really epic RPG or something, they'll be able to kind of provide story for you and stuff. And then so that's just all the kind of creative and visual stuff. Then we've got marketing people too. So it could be if you're looking for reviewers and content creators, and you've got actual people who will help you with the marketing side of things. We've got a couple of voice actors on there because I know that people for their Kickstarter videos will need that. And then talking Kickstarter videos, we've got video editors and social media and campaign managers. So those people will be able to help you with your actual campaign and stuff. So yeah, flicking back to the artist thing, just because I'm there. So it's just taking a minute. This is how it all looks. Yeah, so you'll go on and sort of kind of be able to find things, and you can kind of dig through and just see what skills people have at the top. So it might be that you want to sort of double brief someone, and kind of and work with them on two different sort of variants if you want to stick with the same person. And yeah, we've got kind of videos and a little portfolio gallery, and then projects you can sort of kind of talk about what you've done. Little plug for Hero Master just there.
Nice.
And then yeah, kind of, so this is my second section, so graphic artist, and then kind of like some testimonials here too, and projects on that too. So yeah, you can kind of sort of fill it in, and kind of going through, we kind of encourage our even our kind of creative writers, people who aren't necessarily kind of like really visual, to kind of try and include pieces of work that might kind of they can associate with their art as well, to kind of
things
really
that they've worked on,
to make their profiles nice and colorful and stuff, because it's kind of tough. It's a tough gig, right? Kind of to sort of like just have bodies and bodies of text. I mean, we have proofreaders on there, so it's kind of like, how as a proofreader do you try and kind of like without using the projects that you've worked on, make your kind of profile look kind of exciting and stuff. But it's I use a proofreader for my own game, because I am I'm sorry, I'm happy to do artwork, but my wordiness is not the best. So so yeah, it's kind of like you need someone to kind of check through and stuff. Same with rules editing as well. Like kind of like, I think kind of like things that make sense to you, you read it back kind of 10 years later, it won't make any sense at all. So having those people who are experienced in doing that is a really key thing. So yeah, definitely
that's tremendous. That's a huge range of skills actually listed on the site. So
yeah,
I mean, this is super exciting. So for anyone designing a game, you obviously check out DoodleMeeple. Do you want artwork and things, but also do you want someone to edit your rules? Because I suppose that's the thing, is when you've got your close-knit group who've been playing it for a while,
absolutely,
you can get some play testing and things, but someone to sit down and say, this is one sentence, I know you're excited, but maybe we should have it in 3 sentences, and that way they can breathe in between and understand what's just little things like that. That's super useful.
My major one, and it's sort of like kind of, this is people are going to be like, what a moron, was when I was doing Hero Master, and I kind of almost tried to write the rules in theme, so kind of like, and it trying to make sense, like the rules part of a games night is probably the worst bit, aren't they? When you're the poor soul that has to read them out to everybody, and someone's flicking the dice around the table while someone else is getting a drink and this, that, and the other.
Someone else.
And it's sort of like, and then sort of, so someone just pointed out to me immediately, like, this is not going to fly. You can't kind of like have people doing a dwarf's voice while like kind of reading out the fighting bit. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, so it was
if for no other reason than they'll have an argument about whether dwarves are Scottish, Russian, Welsh or German.
I agree. What's your take?
It depends on where they're from. So like the really deep down dwarves, they're definitely Russian, but most dwarves are Scottish, except for the hill dwarves. They seem to be Welsh. Although my mate last night, he was saying German ones for the marsh dwarves or something. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Nice. I like it. I think you could write a kind of a novel on where, or kind of a who's who of dwarves would be great.
Like the bit at the back of Lord of the Rings, all the extra annex and stuff at the back.
Oh god, absolutely.
I like
I tried to tackle that book when I was a kid a few times, and finally read it when I was in my early 20s, but thoroughly enjoyed it.
Bit of an effort, that one.
I don't know if you tried the Silmarillion, but my goodness.
That's quite a as Master Yoda said, a page turner. It was not.
It's a tough gig. I love fantasy and stuff, but kind of like it's sort of it was an undertaking, certainly.
But
So that's in a nutshell. That's DoodleMeeple. Now, I mean, if you don't mind me kind of continuing on with some of the features that
Sure.
like, just to kind of let people know what it's all about. Like kind
Very
of
happy to see.
the what we can do is actually probably potentially, and I won't take it through because I'm going to kind of freak people out by thinking they've got an amazing new job, and it won't be. It'll be a fake one that I just made up. So I have just gone to the creator bit part of the menu, which which allows me to create a brief, and I could just put box cover art, let's say, for example.
So a brief for anyone who's not been doing industry
Yes,
things
good point.
is this is the bit of work that I want done. So
Yeah.
it's called a brief because it is supposed to be brief, and it's also a briefing as to what's wanted. It's
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
important when you write these to get it right, because if you say, oh, it needs to be that's not easy to interpret.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. In fact, I need to write a blog post on this, and maybe I'll talk to you a little bit more about it and kind of get your input.
I think previously,
Billy,
during at Expo each year, we have a publisher designer track, which is where a lot of folks kind of start the journey or join in at any part of making a board game. And I know we've had some really good sessions on how to write a brief and how to understand a brief, and literally, because it's such a key part of getting it right. Like if you get your brief too waffly and long, the person you're pitching to just go like, I don't know what you want.
Yeah, they've lost the plot from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, so we have had sessions at Expo. It'd be really nice to get your take on it as well, Jamie. It'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Millie. Actually, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to you a bit more about that, because I think there is definitely a fine art to writing briefs.
Yes.
To writing briefs, and I think kind of as I say, I'd like to. We currently actually one of the projects that the updates we've got going on at the moment behind the scenes is actually to expand this brief writing section, so there's more fields to break it down for people who aren't used to writing briefs, because it's not fair, like kind of people kind of like who are just starting out. The reason DoodleMeeple exists is to help people who maybe don't necessarily have that network or don't have the time to do it. So to then expect them to kind of be able to write a perfect brief is unreasonable. So we are, the feedback we've had from some of our artists so far is, they'd like some more details, and there is the messaging service to clarify points and stuff. But if we can kind of cut down on that kind of back and forth just to help people kind of get on the same page straight away, then that's really going to help. So that's our plan. So actually kind of within that'd be interesting I'm always interested in people's feedback on briefs, because it is definitely a fine art. And it's great that you've got something in the expo to kind of really kind of talk through it, because I think that's any education is great. So when you're writing a brief on here, as I say, this may well change relatively soon, but it's kind of very, very generic to kind of accommodate everybody, but it can certainly kind of be added to in the next few months. So we're going to create a job, and so a job summary, it might be a fantasy box illustration, and then maybe some ratios and stuff and what have you. You could even, if you wanted to describe it, you could do a video message, kind of like in detail, which is quite cool. And then kind of your creative summary. So this is what you want from your artist. So she or he might kind of have a focus on fantasy, for example, or kind of various other bits and pieces. So I'm just going to.
So is this the sort of place where you'd say taking games that are already out there? So you've got a very different thing from like Escape the Dark Castle to Dice Hospital. Very different styles there, and
exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd be able to say, look, I really want it to be not a copy, but these are my influences when I imagine my game finished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've designed this with this kind of art style in mind. Is that something you can do, or kind of I'm looking for someone, kind of like a mashup between, say, like Dice Hospital and something else. And certainly it's the place to kind of really kind of drill down and kind of like give the artist an idea of kind of like who you're looking for, and also kind of, sort of someone, it might be you might sort of say, I'm a completely new publisher or designer, I really need a lot of guidance here. So if that affects the quote, or kind of like, or whether you're able to offer that, or maybe someone who's got extensive experience, or maybe it's I'm looking for sort of a younger, less experienced artist because my budget is very small.
That's good, because it sets expectations as well, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like Tim's just upped the character count. Tim is my business partner, by the way. He's the lead dev and co-founder of DoodleMeeple. And one day you'll see him. He hides a lot.
We're well
So this
aware
is
of
all
folks
software
who
that you're-
hide. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to coding,
He's
Tony.
one of the Russian dwarves at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tony does it
exactly.
often.
It's like, why are you bothering me? You know, this whole thing. So you're actually developing all of this software yourselves, is that right?
Yeah, so this is this is Tim's magic. He has been working for all sorts of companies, like kind of in the past, kind of creating apps for them and stuff, like dealing with. The cool thing is he's used to dealing with sort of sensitive information as well. Not that we like kind of particularly host a lot. You know, the payments are done through Stripe, which people will know probably from Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because that's their kind of choice to go through for payments and stuff on there. So we don't, you know, hold excessive amounts of kind of people's personal information or anything. But Tim has worked for the NHS and stuff before, dealing with people's medical records and that sort of stuff. So he kind of knows that stuff, which is great, and it's a real bonus. So, but Tim is, you know, like me, a great big geek and loves playing kind of like board games and RPGs and war games and stuff. So we've been friends since school. He was my best man at my wedding, and kind of, you know, so you know, we know each other very well. So it's good. It's kind of sort of feels like we're on the same page, kind of without talking sometimes, which is great. So you know, I'll go on there and new things are there, and it's all good. So create a creative summary, and then this gives you the opportunity to start kind of looking at who you want to invite to it. So we're looking for an artist, and then this will just basically filter out the people that you don't want. So kind of there's no point in having a marketing person if you're looking for a piece of box art, for example. So if any of the creatives have an artist skill on their profile, this will show them up, and we should have the creatives popping up shortly. And at this point, this is where we can dig through and just start having a look at people's artwork and stuff. So this is Simon, who's got some awesome map artwork and stuff. And we'll just pop back, and we can. Oh, it's taking a bit of a minute. I think it's because we're on Zoom.
I frequently have to remind folks when you're seeing this, you're watching it stream through the background platform Zoom, and then it's also coming through Twitch, and then it's also coming through your internet as well. So the site will not perform as chilled as this is.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. So this is Nick. He does some really cool stuff. Nick's got some amazing clients. So very pleased to have him on there and stuff. I mean, we're really lucky to have a lot of the girls and guys we've got on there. So when you've decided and you've had a good sort of dig through and you kind of find some people you're interested in, you can kind of add them to your shortlist of people. You can see that just popping up at the top here. Of who you want to invite along. I'm going to continue because I think there's another stage for you. There's a submit stage.
Yes.
So at this point you can kind of send that brief out to those people. And they'll get those, and essentially you'll only hear from those people, so you won't have excessive amounts of people who you've never heard of before or have any interest in working with, and you know, kind of it just saves a lot of time on both sides. So, and that's the process. And then as a creative, I think I'm just locked in here at the moment. Just gonna go back home. There we go. So we have our projects that will pop up down here in your notifications. So if you've been invited or if you've got a quote through or that sort of stuff, and also you'll have a little notification in your creator section or your creative section, depending on whether something's coming or going to you or from you. So that's it. It's that simple. It's super simple to get set up. I did like a 1-minute video that I'll share to you guys, maybe in the comments of this video, to kind of sort of show you how you get set up and stuff. And as I say, you set your profile up and then you just add Stripe. So if you have a Stripe account, you can link that, or you can create one. It will kind of prompt you to create one, and that's how you get paid. That's
tremendous.
That's the long and short of it.
That's quite amazing. So obviously, if you're a brand new publisher or creator, somebody who's got a game, wants some help with, you know, editing, marketing, rules, artwork, all the rest of it, we can see how we go through and we find other people. If you're a fledgling artist, if you're starting out and stuff, how much experience do you need before joining? Because obviously,
it's a good question.
I know you'd want a reasonable caliber of people, so I mean, I can't come along with my crayons and do stuff because, you know, that's maybe a bit too niche, but you know.
Well, we dig through our creative roster sort of systematically and just ensure that people's kind of work is up to scratch. You know, kind of I think that it's not a case of we try and coach people through creating a profile before kind of cutting people out of the system. I think kind of sort of sometimes it can be difficult to see the wood for the trees, like kind of sort of see what your best work is or that sort of stuff. And maybe kind of just going to say to people, look, if you're able to kind of show a little bit more of this or what have you, then kind of like, we can revisit it. Like for the time being, maybe your profile will have a lowered visibility, which is kind of something that it's a nice kind of way of saying you're not out. Just let's try and kind of refine things a bit more and what have you, because at the end of the day, it's as much as we and Kate and I actually we discussed this, didn't we, about kind of like finding maybe doing some kind of, because I know that Billy does a lot of kind of sort of student stuff, doesn't he? Like kind of like, and we were talking about kind of like how we could, and I'd love to kind of like bring the next wave of kind of artists through and stuff would be fantastic. My concern at the moment is how we're set up to introduce those right away. I'd be concerned that our creators would get X far with a game and then find themselves in a difficult position when it comes to manufacture and maybe the delivery of art files or whatever it wasn't kind of something that the creative was versed in. And I think kind of like with the system, a lot of people will be relying upon the expertise of these people to be able to do that. I'm not saying that kind of like, because manufacturers are all different, so that's not to say that kind of like every creative is going to send you all the files that are going to work straight away. There's a bit of backwards and forwards and stuff, but it's like having that kind of at least understanding of that and being able to do those things. So we definitely want to include people who are developing, and it could be that sort of like we at some point introduce a section of kind of sort of like
fledgling artists
maybe kind of sort of like if you're on a lower budget or you're making a small game or this, that and the other and stuff, and you'd like to try these people, then we'd encourage you to use our fledgling artists, but otherwise so it's but it's tricky. I mean, at the same time, like kind of with creative writing, for example, like kind of one person's style might be something that I really enjoy. It's very subjective, so kind of who would I be to say your writing's up to scratch? Kind of say it's do you know what I mean? It's I think we'd be able to tell that a lot from our metrics because we are able to track who's getting jobs, who's getting approached, and all that sort of stuff. So that's why it's really important to get like a really nice sort of profile kind of up and running and stuff, because we're able to sort of see the the messages and the quotes and stuff that go through, and kind of sort of see that kind of traffic that's kind of happening to individuals.
And I mean, this is really interesting because like, I mean, you launched a week and a half ago, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So the fact that you're already seeing people come in and be part of the process and signing up stuff, that's a tremendous accolade to be able to have that. That's
really kind of you, and I'm just so excited every day. Like I kind of like phone up Tim and I'm like, give me the numbers, and because it's just really exciting stuff, and it's been rising every day. I think we're nearly at 300 active users now, which is great, within kind of a week and a half, which is it's gone well, and I really don't feel that we started kind of marketing until really yesterday kind of doing these interviews and stuff. Like I have my the Noble Artist, which is my other company which I do my art through. That mailing list hasn't been kind of informed yet, and kind of and some of the other kind of channels that we want to go through kind of we haven't done, and so there's, and obviously talking to Kate about kind of doing some marketing through your channels too, which would be great at some point. So it's just I think we are taking it relatively slowly because we're a startup and it's a technical thing, and we're receiving feedback and we want to be able to react to that feedback. And if kind of sort of if we get an overwhelming amount of feedback, we could end up being pulled in a lot of directions. So it's kind of trying to prioritize how to develop the site so that
it works better at the same time as running the sites that everyone is getting the right sort of help and the right sort of briefs and everything else. So
100%. At the moment, it's almost like we've obviously tested the finance side of things and how that works, but as the first jobs kind of start to go through, it's like kind of making sure that not necessarily kind of like the stability of that, it's more the kind of the how people are enjoying that process, and does it seem like it makes sense to them, kind of
is
like
it easy, is it fluid,
exactly,
it's that user experience thing, isn't it?
So to kind of actually kind of it's a probably good point to kind of to mention about have I got much time left? I don't want to kind of overrun my
we've got another 10 or 12 minutes.
Great, cool, okay, nice one. Because I do like to chat, so like, don't stop me at UKG because you will lose your life. So we've got and this is coming back from kind of like the artist kind of side of things and stuff. And I know kind of like I've been burnt by kind of I'm sad to say by publishers and stuff in the past, and I think I'm sure that publishers have been burnt by creatives who maybe flake on a project or this that, and the other and stuff, and it's as I say, it's a huge undertaking. To have that kind of happen is a really tough gig. So we try and look after both sides of things. So when you create a brief, you'll be taken through to a contract stage, where essentially you're kind of signing off on a contract to say, yes, I agree to working with this. And when the creative agrees to it, they are also agreeing to the contract too. They'll be showing that too. But when you are, excuse me, replying as a creative, you're able to kind of set up milestones of payment. So, trust goes on both sides. So essentially, kind of like I might say I want a 50% deposit on a smaller piece of work. If it's an enormous board game project, you break it down a lot more. And you can define those with dates. You can define those with pieces of work, stages, whatever you want to do. Kind of like you agree with that with the creator that you're kind of pitching to kind of like put those in place. Now when they're in place, it's up to you and the creator, that essentially the creator then puts the money into our Stripe account. So as a creative, you would know that money is available, and it's there, and it's sort of no one's going to run off and not pay you. And at agreeable stages, essentially both the creative and the creator check off a box each to say, yep, milestone complete, cool, we can move through. So everyone's kind of happy that kind of like they're moving at the stages they want to and stuff, and kind of it essentially means that sort of that it cuts down on that fear of being duped, I guess. And
it's nice and transparent in the thing, so it means that you've got proper milestones and project management to take things through.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it also means that that you've got a transparency of when everyone's getting paid and when everyone's what's expected and when.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is good. It's a very useful thing.
I think it's important to mention as well, kind of like, as we're a business, we need money to kind of function as a company. So there is no sign up fee to sign up. It's it's basically a no win no fee type of situation. So you sign up and create a profile as either a creator or a creative, and the only time that we would ever receive any money would be a percentage commission on any payments that go through the site. So and we make that clear when you kind of when you quote for something, and it shows you as a creative what is being taken from you, and as a creator it shows you what's being taken from you as well. So it's and we try and share that between creative and creator. So kind of like you've found the work through us. It's work that you probably wouldn't have otherwise found. But we're trying to kind of make it so that it's not all on one or the other. It's kind of a split thing. So, but yeah, I think it's important. We're trying to be as transparent as possible about how we work. We're always trying to find new ways to kind of increase our revenue through other means, so we can kind of reduce that, so people can continue to kind of get better and better deals with us and stuff. And in that as well, we're kind of working with different partners at the moment, trying to find ways that people, when they get past the stage of actual production, well, pre-production, let's call it, because the production will be the manufacturer, is actually kind of going to manufacturer and trying to get deals with them and fulfillment agencies and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of my being the marketing guy and the sort of kind of the front end side of things. That would be one of my next jobs, to kind of start working on that process, to kind of take people right through the entire game production side of things.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's very, very cool.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, I mean, this obviously means that there's now no excuse for anyone who, if you want to make a game, or if you want to get involved in making games, you should check out DoodleMeeple. There's bound to be stuff there that you can get involed with, and
absolutely.
and see what happens.
We're hoping to make it easier for people. So, kind of, and we'll listen to any feedback if people want to, kind of give us anything that's going to make it even easier for them. So yeah, no, I mean, this is kind of part of, as the noble artist, I'm kind of on a bit of a drive at the moment to try, and I changed career about 10 years ago. I'll give you the quick version because we're running out of time, I'm sure. But I was a restaurant manager up until about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, and I studied art at college, only briefly. That's an important side of things, because I'm absolutely convinced that kind of like you can pretty much apply yourself to anything and do anything. And people sort of say, oh, I'd love to be that sort of kind of be able to do like illustration or what have you and stuff. And it's like, well, you can. It's just sort of, I've just spent 10 years doing it, kind of sort of like throughout that time. And people are able to change career to do something that they want to do. And I think kind of sort of realizing that sort of now 10 years later, when I'm still going and still kind of like paying a mortgage and, able to start a family and all that sort of stuff, doing what I'm sure a lot of people kind of perceive as like a really risky job or really risky job change. And it's actually kind of doable. And kind of I think a lot of people struggle with like happiness at work and certainly mental health and stuff. And I think kind of like that you can actually change your life and not kind of be concerned you can retrain and all that sort of stuff. So with DoodleMeeple, it kind of fell nicely hand in hand to make me realize that kind of like if we can kind of enable people to do the projects they want to do, hopefully I'm not going to save the world or anything, but I hopefully
it's
kind
opportunity,
of make a few people happy. Yeah, exactly. And
it's opportunity in a not so much hand holding, but within a structure or a framework, rather than I want to go and be an artist for this thing, but I don't know where to start. And
absolutely. I 100% agree. And sort of I do you know Gonzalo from Thundergriff? He basically sort of mentored me through the whole of Hero Master kind of when I first started. And he's a really great guy and really helped me out sort of like kind of particularly with the math side of things and stuff. And it was just great having that sort of network in place. I mean, sort of with previous clients as well, being able to just kind of like do that. So when you do get a few kind of creatives on board and stuff, you can kind of use the collective knowledge of like, this worked, this didn't work, you want to be thinking about this. Because even now when I'm working for board game clients and stuff, and I'll speak to them about their games and like, have you started marketing yet? You're like kind of like, I know we haven't finished the art yet, but let's get some of this stuff out, kind of like, and it's sort of because it's like you would go into a shop and you would buy Coca-Cola over kind of like another sort of kind of cola-based product because you've seen Coca-Cola, you're familiar with it, all that sort of stuff, and what have you. It's a bigger brand, and it's kind of like it's as you. Kate, I'm talking to you like kind of like you're not a marketing expert.
That's right. No, this is good because I'm talking to everyone on the Twitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but kind of, it's reinforcing the brand, right? Kind of sort of like people won't buy something sort of straight away when first looking at it, and it's the same with games as well. And that was a really valuable lesson that I was given with Hero Master, is to kind of like did coming soons for like months before I put it out on Kickstarter.
Because there's the familiarity thing. Because from an animal behaviour point of view, so my degree is biology originally, and the whole animal behaviour thing is that the way you get people to look at something is that instead of having like your big herd of folk here, your population, you don't yell something once over here really loudly. What you do is you send 4 or 5 people into the crowd to go, hey, have you seen that thing over there with the stuff? Have you seen that thing over there with the stuff? And they've done experiments, and you can tell all sorts of spurious things in this like little, have you seen that thing? And people will know it's not real, but they'll go and look at it anyway, because crazy. That's how we work. So do things that are real, do things that are positive, but have that constant, here it is, because it's that familiarity. We go, oh yeah, I saw that thing in that place that time. Let's go and have a look at this.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, because I think you might not click the first kind of sort of 5 times, but the 6th time you're like, oh, right, go on then. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, absolutely. But that's a great idea for next UKG. I'm definitely going to send people out into the crowd.
Like,
just like, definite plants. I can imagine sort of like, oh, have you heard about that really cool game Hero Master? Like, kind of like, it'd be really good.
This is why people have the branded T-shirts and things, because someone's like, what's that on that? Why is that a goblin riding a sheep?
That's also a good idea. Yeah, I like that. That's good. So yeah, nice. Yeah. So no, I think, do you know what, that does make me sort of think kind of in terms of kind of sort of branding and stuff. And that's one thing I'm really guilty of is in sort of videos and bits and pieces. I always see like everyone has these like cool banners behind them and stuff. And but there's always room for improvement, which is something I'm always looking to work on.
It's one of those things. It's knowing the level that you're at and what you need to get done, and then what are nice to haves. But visual stuff behind your stand, on your stuff, on your site, on your profile, it speaks wonders to be able to say, oh, that looks cool.
Absolutely. That process driven stuff, it's like you have listened to the conversations between Tim and me when I'm saying to Tim, we need to do this now, it's just gonna be really cool, and he's like, there's a process, Jamie, we go through the process, blah, 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 and it's there's a like nice to haves and these are needs and what have you. I'm like, it's like, well, we need a private plane. No, we don't need a private plane. What are you doing?
Look, and the logo would look great down the side. Look, I've locked it up.
Exactly. I've already photoshopped it.
And sometimes it's really, really nice to have that honking great digital banner outside of the NEC, but it is not, that is a nice to have because it's welcoming.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
tell where the UK Games Expo are. You follow the Daleks and the Vikings and all the cosplayers and the backpacks and the kids and everyone who's super excited. So
Circling right back to kind of the start of the conversation when I was talking about the kind of the startup table and stuff, it's sort of that was, I was when you're starting a board game and stuff, if you don't know whether it's going to be successful or not, you want to minimize the amount of kind of collateral, like sort of financial damage you're going to do. So having that, it's having a what's the word, like some skin in the game, but it doesn't have to be kind of like the biggest thing. As long as you have a toe in the door,
yes,
and you're present there, then there's a wealth of opportunities. Whether you then sort of scale that up to kind of like 5-10 grand for a stand, or whatever, like kind of like, yes, you're going to get more impressions and all that sort of stuff and what have you, but you've got to be in it to win it. But it doesn't. And
equally, word of mouth works so well at UKGE. So if you've got a smaller stand, someone comes over, goes and shows their mates, and all their mates come. That's the wonderful thing. It's massively
really
organic.
Cool.
So
I really enjoyed it. It was such a good experience, and the community's great generally, kind of online and stuff and what have you. But the community UKGE, because people are there to kind of like have fun, right? Kind of it's a whole entertainment thing. So but in terms of sort of marketing, as I mentioned on DoodleMeeple, we've got people who can help you that as well. So it's all good.
That's very, very cool.
That is. I'm going to have to stop us talking now.
No worries.
Have to put the producer hat on and say that we're up to time. Just remind everybody where we can find DoodleMeeple and everything else.
Yeah, of course, sure. So you can find us at DoodleMeeple.com. And you can make a free profile on there and have a little look around and start making briefs and bits and pieces, and just make a nice, beautiful profile. And then, if you're a creative, and kind of look forward to kind of being contacted by people. If you're a creator, as I say, and I say those, I really put the emphasis on creator and creative. Then you'll be able to find the people that you need to kind of make your game, and kind of it's, as I say, everything is done on site, so it's all kind of very safe and secure and tracked and all that sort of stuff. And you can refer back to your messages and how the brief kind of looks, so you're on the same page. So find us at DoodleMeeple.com. We're on Facebook. You can find our Facebook page if you look for DoodleMeeple and every other sort of social network you can imagine. And otherwise, I hope to see you on there and start making some games with you.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's been great to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great,
Jamie.
And kind of sort of like I feel like I learn a few things when I do these things as well, which is great.
It's awesome. Awesome.
Thanks very much.
Don't go away, folks. We're going to be back in a few moments with Matthew from the Effekt podcast, check out DoodleMeeple. Looking forward to reading that blog about writing a brief.
Yeah,
looking forward to that. You've given you homework now. Yeah. Take care. We'll be back soon, folks. Don't go away. Hello, folks. How you doing? Welcome back to the UK Games Expo live stream. Up here still, Kate, UK Games Expo Marketing Manager. But we've changed. We've got a new guest with us. Which way am I pointing? I should stop doing that. It's Matthew from the Effekt podcast. How you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Millie?
I'm good. A little tired, as I was saying earlier, but a little tired, but I'm good.
Good.
So one of the cool things about running and being part of the UK Games Expo Twitch is you do get to now and again talk to podcasts that you're a fan of yourself. So I'm a little bit excited here because I do enjoy listening to the Effekt podcast, and I'm excited to get to share this with everybody. So I wonder, where do we start, Matthew?
Well, shall we start with how we started the Effekt podcast?
Yes, that would be great.
That's always good.
Because somebody I know who isn't a million miles away from here said, everything I learned about Coriolis, I learned from the Effekt podcast, which should be on a t-shirt. And and we started off as the Effekt podcast, or as the Coriolis Effekt, about coming on to 3 years ago now. Coriolis had just come out. My co-host Dave had got married, actually, and I remember this because he spent his entire wedding dinner, as far as I can remember, sitting next to me, convincing me to back this new game, Coriolis, that was on Kickstarter at the time. And I thought, well, this is a great wedding. I'm enjoying this. I like talking about games. And anyway, I did. And then I remember getting the PDF and reading it. And I don't know how you guys are with role-playing game books, but I very rarely read them from beginning to end.
No, absolutely. Deep in and out.
Yeah, I've done it twice, cover to cover. The first edition of Feng Shui by Robin Laws was a brilliant read and a really entertaining read in its own right.
Yes.
And then this Coriolis book, and I kind of finished the Coriolis book, and I remember going for a walk afterwards. And on the walk, I phoned Dave and I said, Dave, let's do a podcast about Coriolis. And here we are. The challenge was that we started off with the Coriolis Effekt, and then Blooming Free League started making more and more games. And Dave, of course, had already bought into Mutant Year Zero, so that's why he knew about Coriolis, but I knew nothing about that. So we started off initially talking about Coriolis, but then we became Effekt when we realized there was more in the world to talk about than Coriolis. And we generally stick to Free League games. We did diverge to start talking about Simba Room for a while, but handily, Jan Ringen, the guys behind Simba Room, recognized they were putting us in an awkward position, and so they merged with Free League.
Yes, I was going to say. That's tremendous.
And we've always had a sort of a world of gaming slot. So the first 15 minutes of every program, we talk about the wider world of gaming and other games that have interested us. But generally, we're about Free League games. And we interview Free League creators, both, employed by and freelancing for Free League. But we also interview people that have made stuff. And in fact, Millie has been on our players in the hammam slot, as we call it. That's a hangover from the Arabic themed Coriolis, to talk about some of the games that she's built on the Free League Workshop.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a different hat on a different day of the week. But one of the things that I didn't realize until I'd listened to it, like you have ran introduction games and things for Free League at Expo and stuff before.
Yes. So let me tell you about the second phone call when Dave said, "Oh, this is brilliant. We'll do a podcast and we'll go over to Sweden and we'll interview the guys at Free League, and then they'll give me a job writing stuff for them." And I went, "I don't really think that's how it works, Dave." But little did I know, just before Christmas, that very first year, we'd only done about, I can't remember, 10 episodes or something, and we were on a plane to Sweden, and I'd booked a cheap place to stay, and David arranged that we'd meet the guys from Free League at their office at that time being a particular pub table in Gamla Stan, the old town at in Stockholm. And so we sat around the pub and we interviewed them, and it was a great long chat, which covers about 2.5 episodes of our podcast. People can look in the early episodes to see that chat. but we made friends. So that was the first thing that Dave wanted to do. And then about a year or so later, about 18 months ago, Nils from Freely contacted us and said, we've got an idea we want to talk to you about, but beforehand, we're going to have to get you to sign an NDA.
Ooh, always
And we got
exciting.
a bit excited about that because we were thinking, well, that, I mean, it might be from them, but it's likely to be from a licensee. Who could it possibly be a licensee for? And I won't say what Dave was hoping because it didn't happen, and he might still. So who knows? But then when we signed the NDA and sent it back, and we got this PDF, which was almost the completed version of the Alien rulebook, and I looked at it and I thought, Dave is going to be jumping around his room now because apart from the thing that Dave was really hoping for, his second most favorite franchise is Alien. And so we said, yeah, we'll do whatever it is, we'll do it. And what it was coming to UK Games Expo, which has actually we'd never been to UK Games Expo before because, it's a little bit, we're Southerners and it's a little bit of a distance.
Getting anywhere beyond Oxford is tricky, right?
yeah. And there's hotel bills and things like that. But they said, we'd like you to come and run demo games of this new game for us. We're going to be announcing the pre-order shortly before. So you're kind of doing exhibition games. And we said, yes, because this way you're going to pay us and then we can afford the hotel and then we're going to do the thing. And we're really excited because we've got this thing that at that point, nobody else knew about in the public world. So we felt really privileged and really excited. And I guess in a way, I'm going to make a short story quite long here.
Right.
I said, we've got this playtest document that nobody knows about. We need to run it to work out how it plays. I said, and this was a crazy idea that we never did. But my first crazy idea is, what if we get our gang together and we tell them we're going to run Tales from the Loop in space? And they're all going to be kids, and there's going to be an adventure with a mystery they need to sort out, and they're going to have to climb through all the tunnels in this space colony, and then we're going to, they're going to get to the medical center through these tunnels, and then they're going to look down, and they're going to see Newt's dad with an alien bursting out of him, and then we hand out the alien spreadsheet and carrot sheets, and it would be an entirely different thing, a real bait and switch. And then we decided we couldn't do that for two reasons. One being that we needed to get these guys to sign the NDA before we showed them Alien at that point, so they'd know. And also that was a bait and switch. And that is not a good rule for GMs to follow. But that did give us the idea of, as we read through these rules, and we had, the first draft of Andrew Gasker's adventure, Chariot of the Gods, as well. And we said, well, actually, if we're introducing this game to people at UKGE, we need to do it in a way that's instantly recognizable. We'd already talked with them about doing relatively short games. Our aim was 90 minutes, which actually I managed to run my games in 90 minutes. Dave generally didn't. He normally went up the full 2 hours. We had a sort of half-hour buffer zone.
Yeah.
And so, people have got to be they've got to know everything. We can't tell them anything. So we made a case to say, could we kind of write adventures at Hadley's Hope, the colony in Aliens?
Yeah.
And actually Fox, as they were then, were really reluctant to let us do that because they kind of wanted the game to move the franchise on and didn't want to go back to this, film that's 20 odd years old.
Yeah.
But we said, for these reasons, for instant recognition, for playing it, it's
familiarity.
It's a demo game as well. I mean, it's not like it's going to be published or anything. So they went, okay, we'll do this. And for our own sanity, because we were going to run these games back to back, Dave, then me, then Dave, but throughout, the 4 days, we didn't want to go mad. So we ended up writing 3 what I called vignettes in Hadley's Hope. And if you string them together, there's a bit of a story there. So the first vignette, somebody's come back. There's some mysterious escaped snake or something that people are a bit confused by. But actually, we'd said, people take advantage of the opportunity to do a kind of heist on the casino. And And then a bit later on, we said we had originally in the game, I said, and we've got the Union Band here, and they've been practicing with the speakers turned off, and making a terrible noise in one of the furthest airlocks. So they come out of that airlock and they find there's blood everywhere and screams and all sorts of stuff, and they have to try and get to safety. And finally, I said, "Oh, Free League made us read River of Pain, which is the novel about what happens at Hadley's Hope before the Marines arrive. And what really annoys me about that is what happens at Hadley's Hope before the Marines arrive is there are Marines there who kind of do a rerun of Alien." And I was saying, well, if it's before the Marines arrive, there shouldn't be Marines. So I argued, and luckily, I think Andrew Gasco, although we didn't know him at that point, he supported us in this, that we should have civil marshals, like on Outland. I think I expressly used Outland, and Andrew Gasco's
not quite as well trained, not quite
as well trained,
but still reasonably.
And in fact, one of the demo games immediately picked up on them being kind of amateur, and they ran them as Dad's Army, effectively. Which was hilarious.
Oh, that's amazing.
Don't panic, said as he rolled his panic dice. So yeah, we had those 3 vignettes, and they so that's the worst one. When you're playing the civil militia, there's loads of aliens. You're definitely going to die. It's everybody. This is the point where everybody's going to die. Your mission is to get a message out saying, "Don't come, just send the Marines." And we did those 3, and I got to say they were amazingly successful at UK Games Expo. First day of opening, we set up. We didn't plan this actually really well. We'd created sort of sign-up sheets, but we hadn't thought that we would fill up all those sign-up sheets for the entire weekend by 11 o'clock on the first morning.
Oh, wow. That's tremendous.
That was great. And it actually did. What happened, though, is that some players then didn't bother turning up. So there was one time when I had a table and nobody turned up, and then I was immediately saying, "Damn, I should have had a reserve list." But we grabbed a bunch. There were plenty of volunteers. There wasn't a single game that we missed.
Yeah, and everyone's keen. You just have to go. You in the shoes. Come and play this. Yes, I have shoes. Must mean me.
Yes.
And we were right by the long queue that goes to the sort of the bring and buy sale as well.
Oh, so, perfect.
So that worked to our advantage. And it was an amazing success. We had a wild time with hardly any time off, as it were. The idea was that we'd have kind of 2 hours on, 2 hours off, but we helped on the stall as well, which was really good fun, because by this time people are getting interested in the games. This was the year that Forbidden Lands won all the awards at UK Games Expo, and so we were selling a lot of copies of Forbidden Lands, as you might imagine, and there was some new Tales from the Loop stuff out as well, so we were selling that. And we on the stall, we had Nils with us, we had Matthias from Jan Ringen, I think, or had they joined by that time anyway, and we had Martin Grip, the artist from Alien. But I think being authentic, enthusiastic fans of these games, when it came to actually selling the games, I think we may have sold, Dave and I, when we were on the stall, more games than the three professionals did. But it was, I loved it, and I was gutted when it didn't happen again this year. I mean, because they'd invited us back. I was going to run Vesson games and Alien, and Dave was going to run some more Alien games, and we were going to do pretty much the same thing. And then it didn't happen.
But folks who did join Virtually Expo might have seen you holding a panel on one of the weekends.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Yes, so we've done panels and kind of exhibition games at a number of conferences. So this year, it's the first time I've been to Essen, which was another tick box I wanted to check off by myself at UK Games Expo. But of course, I didn't go to Essen. I was in this room. But that was quite good fun. We had a game. In fact, I invited Millie to join us on that one, and also a German streaming podcast conglomerate called Orkenspelter TV. They'd written to Free League saying, "Can somebody run Vaesen for us?" Awesome. And so I ran that for them in English, thank God, because all the German I remember I learned from Monty Python. And
Yes.
that's probably not good.
Not quite as helpful as you imagine.
Yes. Unless you've got a constipated wombat, then
Yes.
and so so I ran that in English and we had a whale of a time. So it's been fun actually doing that virtual presence. But interestingly, just this morning I've been writing a long email to Free League, and it's part of an email chain when we're talking about what's happening next year. And we think we've got, hopefully, obviously, we're hoping UK Games Expo is going to be a physical thing and that we're going to be there physically. And, fingers crossed that that's going to happen in whatever form.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a Pavlovian response now.
Yeah.
You're like,
yes. It was like, please let us have a show.
But if we are stuck with digital online, I think we all agree that exhibition games probably have a limited, people enjoy them, people do watch these games. We're not doing that wonderful thing of all those people who turned up last year to Essen and sat down and played Alien for the first time, and it'd be lovely to make things more participative. And so we're thinking, what can we do in that regard, whether we're physical? Millie and I have an idea which I won't say anything about yet.
Secrets.
This email, I've for the first time mentioned it to the guys, actually.
I love the fact that we're normally looking for scoops, but we can't tell you about this scoop that
I mean, so it's the first time I've actually now mentioned it to the Free League guys.
I have this quite frequently when talking with John Dodd, the role manager for UKGE, and he basically says, Millie, I'm not telling you. I'm like, tell me about the people, tell me about the things. No. Good plan, John, because I know, I understand. And he's just like, no. Same with sometimes with Richard and Tony. I was like, tell me things, and then I can go. And no, oh, okay, I understand.
Yet.
I understand.
Really, really nearly.
It happens quite a lot.
It's very early days for this. As I say, I've just mentioned it to Free League. They haven't even. I don't think I've even sent that email yet. I think I realised that we were coming online here, so I need to press send on that. They need to read it. They need to come back and say. Well, and also you guys at UKGE need to actually say, yes, we're going to do this. And then there may be a marvellous thing that we can tell everybody about. But so we're just thinking about what we do next year. But it was such good fun. And of course, the real icing on the cake then was as they got closer to actually putting the book out, they contacted us again and they said, look, Andrew Gasker's adventure is just too damn long to fit in the core book. Can we adapt one of your short adventures from UK Games Expo? And so what we'd called Last Hope's 3 vignettes from Hadley's Hope, or from LV for some LV whatever the number is,
LV 426.
We all know it in case it pops up on a star chart and everyone go, no, not that one.
It became chapter 13 of the book, Hope's Last Day. We got rid of the Union Brass Band, but it's basically that adventure. Yeah, but they decided the Union Brass Band was a little bit too niche for.
It is.
It's pretty cool.
It's
though.
a bit English, isn't it? Isn't it a bit British? So that's a phenomenal ride. You started this podcast out of like, hey, back this thing. Shouldn't you be getting married? Yeah, but back the thing, kind of thing. You started this podcast. And now you're published in one of the books from that. That's a pretty amazing ride.
I mean, it is Day's fantasy came entirely true. I was entirely negative about it at the time when he mentioned it. But he's even done some writing for the latest game, Twilight 2000 now.
Awesome.
So I think he has dreams of becoming a professional game author, which I never had. Although now I'm unemployed, maybe actually I'm thinking along those lines as well.
Yeah.
His dreams came true. That trajectory, which I thought was fantasy. I mean, I didn't even think, I thought we might last 10 programs and have a tiny audience. And, we are a very niche part of a very niche hobby, and we're not D&D. So our audience is pretty small, but it's really active, really supportive, really friendly, and people really love what we do, which just makes me feel makes my heart burst almost every day when
That's
I
wonderful.
realise that people like it.
And it's great because you've got the thing where now you're established, you've got this, and you've got this wonderful relationship with the publisher, and the authors of the games that you love and you're sort of very keen about. So that's a position where that can only grow as this grows. And obviously, where Aliens won the UK Games Expo People's Choice Award, which was again a tremendous accolade, because that's everyone going, no, this one's awesome. It's again.
I like to think we helped there by saying, do remember to vote. This is how you vote.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's amazing because people are like, oh, I didn't know they were doing this, and a lot of people will look at licenses and go, oh, what if it doesn't feel like the thing? What if it doesn't, because everyone has a very Aliens is old enough that if you are a youngster, then it's like, wow, Aliens, that's still cool. And if you are presumably our age, you remember being terrified as a kid, where you've then gone on as an adult to watch it and rewatch it and the things that are there, to suddenly think, you know what, I need this to feel the way it does. And I think it does. We were talking last night about
marvelous
this.
Success, actually. I mean, and again, when we read that early edition, that first prototype PDF, Dave and I agreed that this was perfect. My true love, I have to say, is still Coriolis. I love the world of Coriolis, but that system, even though it's broadly the same system, that system feels clunky, and adaptations were made there from Mutant Year Zero that work with variable success, whereas everything in Alien is right for that genre, and it really does what it's meant to do.
Yes.
What I haven't tried, what really Dave has tried running a campaign with his home group, so that seems to just about be working. I think we had some issues about the skill selection there, but yeah, so I haven't ever run anything that isn't a cinematic one-off, or played in anything that isn't a cinematic one-off, but for that job, it's absolutely brilliant.
It's tremendous, and it's the right level of tension, and that kind of creeping unease that's with it. But at the same time, you get these moments of pure joy where someone, like Millie was saying, presses something or does something completely ludicrous, or just bursts because the tension is too much, and you get the kind of like, which is usually the point that the xenomorph comes out and eats one of you, because that's how storytelling works. But it is that whole emotional roller coaster, as well as being a terrific tale, isn't it?
Yeah. And you do remind me, though, of something that Dave would never forgive me if I didn't mention.
Right.
We'd set this adventure on Hadley's Hope. The monsters in Chariot of the Gods aren't the traditional xenomorph. So Dave early on said, look, we're going to do this thing on Hadley's Hope. We've agreed we're going to do that now. Have you got the stats for the xenomorph, though? Because obviously we need to have the actual xenomorph in there.
Yes.
And they said, no. We said, well, I'm going to have to write them then. I said, well, could you write them then? So Dave feels very proud that the true xenomorphs, the alien and aliens xenomorphs, are his creation in the core book. They changed a bit as we developed the rules and things like that, but they are actually Dave's aliens in the core book. So he's very proud of that, and I mustn't forget that that's all said to our
That's
credit.
amazing. I'm now going to have to think of them as Dave's aliens as opposed to the other guys from that.
Particularly when they do an acid attack. Blame Dave when you die from leaking acid, having killed an alien or whatever it is.
That's tremendous.
It is tremendous. It's a tremendous story as well. Like the whole sort of arc of, like, if it was a film like the Effekt podcast, there is a tremendous kind of arc there that ends with the Effekt. And obviously Dave had it in his head that he wanted to try this out. Was that like the very British style joke? Like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, or was he?
No, seriously, I think I treated it as such at the time. And with a very British sense of humour, like that's never going to happen. But let us entertain that dream. Because I'd done a little bit of podcasting before. This is my first podcast, but I'd written for The Signal, which was a podcast all about Firefly back in the days when
Good
Firefly
poster
roofs.
behind you, by the way, as well.
Oh yes, yeah, no,
Very
absolutely.
lovely.
So I had a little bit of podcasting experience, and I know that crew from the Signal have contributed to some of the products that QMX have produced for Firefly, but we never got invited to write the Firefly role-playing game or any part of it, for instance, that happened there. So my ambitions are limited, but I'd seriously think Dave thought this was the way to getting to write for Free League, and he was right. Even the idea of us flying to Sweden and interviewing them in person as opposed to doing it, say, over Zoom, was something that I thought was far-fetched. But Dave had that ambition, and I helped him make it happen. I booked the hotel.
And that's really cool. That must be the most excellent wedding present, like all those years ago. To just say,
so.
all right,
I actually
I'll
bought
back
him
your
Call of
thing.
Cthulhu 7th edition for his wedding, but
Wow.
but no, in a way, this was the wedding present that finally came true a few years later on.
That's awesome.
And really... Sweden is well worth visiting. Generally, you get that. There's very much this talk to each other, the whole thing. They have a ritual called fika, where they sit down and you're supposed to have a cup of coffee, something sweet to eat, usually a cinnamon bun, and you just talk about stuff. And there's no mobile phones, no nothing. Just have that conversation, which is a lovely cultural thing. So you guys actually going over there physically and saying, hey, we think this is really cool. I mean, that's lovely. That's an absolutely wonderful story.
It was really marvelous. And in fact, we did do some fika. So having arranged to meet, a good chunk of the Free League crew, including at the time Richard and Ricard and Troya, who writes their campaign. This campaign, he's the author of this.
Yes.
But back then he wasn't. Back then he was just starting. He was a fan, had been asked to do some stuff on sort of editing work and rules stuff. But he was slightly an interloper in that one. I said, we're sorry, do you mind if we bring Ricard along? And of course, now he's a core member of the team, really. So it was lovely to meet him there. And particularly, I was going to say Andrew Gasker, but I don't mean Andrew Gasker. Who do I mean? One of their team, because of course, like all of us, they weren't making their money out of publishing. They weren't eating from being involved in role-playing games. They all had other jobs. And Costa Kostoulas is the name, who's actually a brain surgeon for his day job.
Oh my goodness.
He came along after a tiring day at the hospital and sat with us as well. But he's such a laugh. I really enjoyed meeting Costa. We had a wonderful time around the table. But then we also, Dave, again, he just started to get into Simbaroom, and he said, let's go and meet the guys from Jan Ringen as well. And they're quite distributed, and actually only a couple of them come from around Stockholm. So we met with Matthias Lilja, and actually that was the first time that we met Martin Grip, who has Martin Bergström. I think he's got two names, one of which for each game, but he's the illustrator on Simbaroom as well as in Alien and for a good chunk of Coriolis as well. So they came representing Simbaroom, and we met them in a coffee shop over coffee with coffee and cake.
Nice.
And we had a shorter interview with them, but that's part of our Swedish trip as well. And that was brilliant. As I say, I never imagined that would happen, but Dave had that. That was the point of setting up the podcast. So quite frankly, while he's still co-hosting with me now after all that's happened, I have no idea. Apart from the fact that we really enjoy it, that people love the work we do, and we like the glory.
do you ever get a moment like off mic away with Dave, and you go, this is all a bit balmy? Do you ever have that reality check between you two?
Not quite that it's all balmy, but there are times where this is like a dream come true, isn't it? There was a mix-up at the hotel we booked in Stockholm where we'd asked, and we'd got a receipt for twin beds, but we had a double bed. And so that was a moment where I was saying, well, what do we have to go through to make this dream come true? This may be the limit of where we're at.
You're my mate, but how far is this? Like.
So that was a bit balmy, but yeah, no, it it does all seem to come together in a very serendipitous way. It is a lot of hard work, though.
No,
I mean,
Yes.
you know, I've been furloughed for some time, and I haven't felt like I've been sitting around with nothing to do. We've done more and more stuff, I guess. With the podcast, you know, we're starting now on Twitch, and we have been for almost since the beginning of lockdown, been doing stuff on YouTube as well, and so that's more time, and preparing all that stuff takes more time, as you guys probably realize with your jobs as well for UK Games Expo. But no, it's really enjoyable. I wish I could make a living doing just this, actually, because it's, you know, it would be great to work at doing something you love, and I love doing this.
You can tell when you listen to or watch in and tune into some of the live streams that you do, that you are having a blast with the Coriolis adventures and everything that's there. What was it like when Dave was showing you Coriolis? What was it that made it stand out compared with like other sci-fi RPGs? What was it that stole your heart?
Well, yeah. Now this is really interesting because I quite like the setting. You can see I'm a Firefly fan, and this felt a little bit, as they said, it's Firefly mixed with Arabian Nights. So that was fine, but I could be playing Firefly. For years, as a group, we played Traveller, and
Yes.
I wasn't particularly seeing much in this system that was that different, that couldn't be run in another world, or sorry, that couldn't be run in another system. But the thing that really sold it to me is, weirdly, a thing that I don't particularly like, and that's the combat system.
Right.
And as I read through the combat system, which everything's a little bit different in these games, so they all have different levels of granularity. There isn't a combat system really in Tales from the Loop, but this one I really like because it's kind of like roll a bunch of dice and then decide what you've done. So based on the number of successes you've got, say, right, well, not only have I shot him, but I've disarmed him as well, or I've parried and stabbed him back, or something along those lines. And that flexibility, actually, that really sold it to me, because I thought, oh, this is really, really quick. And it is. It's quick and deadly. So it's one of the easiest combat systems, I feel, in role-playing that I've come across. And yet
and you're
there's
using
a
the
sort of...
dice to tell the story as well.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the thing.
And then,
so it becomes fluff in with the crunch.
yes,
You know?
exactly. That's it. And you spend your dice on doing other things, your extra successes. That doesn't happen with all the systems, but in Coriolis, that's how they do it. And I really like that, actually. I really like that. Maybe now it looks a little bit clunky. Grenades are a bit naff. But in other respects, that core idea of roll a bunch of dice, see how many successes you get, maybe prayer, and for me, actually, the ultimate thing is the prayer mechanic. So we have played as a home group Pendragon for something like 38 years now.
Wow.
And as you know,
That's
Pendragon, your Knights of King Arthur, it's pretty much all about Christianity. I mean, my great-great-grandfather who started it was definitely a pagan, but I remember politically choosing to join the Church of Rome at some point in the past. But, you know, in that game of being very moral, very Christian knights uniting England, I don't ever remember ever in play saying, well, I'm going to go and pray, or, you know, there's a church here, let me go and pray before the battle. With the prayer mechanic, which is the push mechanic of Coriolis, and also a bonus method of getting more dice when you push, which is preparatory prayer, players naturally, I am pleased to say, in my groups at least, say, oh, before we have this meeting, let us all go and pray to the merchant, so that if we need to re-roll our dice in this meeting, we will be more successful. Or there's a battle about to happen. I haven't got a chapel around me, but I am going to kneel and pray to the judge to give me strength in this battle. And people are doing this all the time. And so this is a system where the gods, the icons, are real. And we were talking about this because in the early days of the podcast, some people were looking a little bit, they said, oh, I don't really like the religious aspect of it. And me and my mates were all kind of atheists and we don't really like this sort of feeling. And so I remember bringing it up with Tony, Dave's brother, and asking him what he felt about a religious thing. And he said, the gods exist. And the gods exist because when you pray to them, things work out better. So obviously, and I just love that. Here's a system with a spiritual system that is just absolutely ingrained in the play. And I'm not particularly religious or spiritual person myself either, but I love playing in this world where gods are real and it is worth going to chapel. And then people actually role play going into a chapel or saying a quick prayer before a situation.
It's a big spiritual, it's a big cultural part of the game as well, isn't it? It gives you the flavour of the thing.
And it does, yes, but it ingrains the flavour and the mechanics. It isn't just gods that are out here in the fluff, and you don't really think about them when it comes to the table. No, here, the god you pray to in the heat of combat or in the busy discussion, that will have an effect. Or if you're trying to repair the damn machine and you're cursing the machine and you curse and pray for the deckhand to help you, then magically the repair happens. That's brilliant. You finally work out how to do it.
Yes.
I love that. So prayer, the combat system is the first thing that grabbed me, but overall, the prayer mechanic and the spirituality of the system in general is the thing that makes Coriolis unique among space games. And of course, Traveller, famously, Mark Miller, also an atheist, I think, said, "I'm not having God or religion of any organized type in the rational future of Traveller." So there was hardly any religion at all until kind of later supplements and things where some writer snuck it in. But this world, I love.
That's very cool.
And the spirituality.
And you do add to kind of the world, like part of your, I think, homework in your podcast. You give each other homework, and I know there have been where you expand different parts of the lore.
Yeah. So and I took this learning from The Signal. Is I thought there's a lot of podcasts out there that are generally two middle-aged white blokes rabbiting on about shit.
Right.
Stuff, I should say. I said, we don't need to add to that, but unfortunately we are two middle-aged white blokes. So I said, I want to try and create a very magazine format to the show. So although, we are two middle-aged white blokes who rabbit on about stuff, I try and break it up, at least in what you're hearing. And so I said, initially, we should format this for about an hour. It never lasts as little as an hour. And we'd do 10 minutes at the beginning talking about the world of gaming. Then one of us would do an essay, I call them, for 10 minutes about a particular subject. And I remember the first ones that we had, or the first couple that I wrote for Coriolis, we'd just started a campaign where the guys wanted to be bounty hunters. And I thought, how does that work with all the different jurisdictions of the world? And I came up with a thing that I called Ijma Earth, which is a kind of warrant that goes right across the horizon, a first come tradition that says you can collect debts effectively. And so that was one of the first essays we did. And one of the other ones, which again I'm really proud of, is a setting. Again, and this was me thinking space. We never talk about bathrooms in space. I always loved, one of the things I loved about Firefly is there's a shot of Mal doing up his flies, having and then kicking away this this sort of foldable toilet thing away and washing his hands, and I love it for that. But I said, actually, water's at a premium in space, and we've got this Arabic setting, and I could just imagine people landing their spaceships, and the first thing they do is go and have a bath in a public bathhouse. So I created what I called Samima's Hammam as a sort of little location that you could slot into whatever adventure you were running, with a little bit of intrigue going around it, a couple of characters there who might do favors for you or put you in contact with things. And that was in the second show or the first show, I can't remember. So yes, we create little 500-600 words essays that we do, and then we comment on each other's articles, and that was the feeling I wanted to do there. And of course, each one of those has either expanded the universe with actual locations like that, or a concept like Ijma Earth, or investigated some of the factions. Because again, one of the things I love about Coriolis are, in a lot of games, a faction equals class, and it's a way of giving you as a player some distinction from other player characters. Whereas there was no idea in Coriolis that you should belong to any factions. The way I described it quite early on is factions are the wheel that grinds your players into the dust. They're not something that do you any favors. They don't generally give you any powers unless you really work at getting yourself ingrained in the faction. And then particularly in Emissary Lost Part 2, there are some great new talents you can get that are faction exclusive. But generally, the factions are political entities that just make your life hell. And so we looked at each of those in the course of the program, and we would generally write 500, 600, 700 words about it, have a bit of a chat about it, and then depending on which one of us had written it, that would go up on Dave or my blogs as well. One of our patrons has now created a website that's like an index all of those, so you can go to either one of our blogs, and you don't have to go through the whole blog to find what you're looking for. So that's really nice. And also we now, of course, the Free League workshops happened, and because our patrons have managed to buy us Adobe Creative Cloud, we're starting to publish some of those things. So the first thing I put out actually was the Coriolis calendar, where they're a bit vague about how the segments work, and particularly, what you call days in the world of Coriolis. So I hypothesized on that, and came up with a lovely calendar, which another fan of the show, John Salquist, who's a Swedish artist, created some beautiful icon illustrations for. Now that's for sale on the Free League workshop, and it's quite popular as well.
Excellent.
Just sold another 6 copies this month, I noticed.
Wow.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, I like that. And actually, funnily enough, Richard Ancroyer, when he was writing this one, Emissary Lost, wrote to us and said, your Hammam idea, can I put that in Emissary Lost? And he didn't need to, because he just wanted to have a Hammam, and not the one that I'd created, not Samina or anything like that. He had some characters for it, but he took the time out to say, can I put that in your book? And in fact, we're kind of credited as playtesters in this book. We didn't see it before anybody else saw it, but I think that's an acknowledgement that we'd added to the world in that way. So that was lovely getting that, except for the fact that I'm running Emissary Lost for Dave and his brother and some guest players from our patrons. And in that, I was really excited when he was finally going to go to the Hammam, and he absolutely ruined the encounter. Got
Oh no!
too angry too quickly, started beating up the host. She had to knife him to get him off.
Oh dear!
Sent him away with a flea in his ear and saying, "Never come back here again." And I thought that was our man. We invented that.
Classic moment of player meets adventure and plans go out the window.
Yeah, just like.
However, I think it was a character development moment for him. I think he's realizing that his negotiation skills aren't the best thing in the world because he's too angry.
I suppose that would be the thing, is to go away, level those up, or get inspiration or spirituality from it, and then go back. And the test would be, can you, go and make nice with this person who ended up with fisticuffs?
At some point, maybe we'll bring him back to. I can't remember what her name is, but she's not Samina, and maybe he can make his peace with the Hammam.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? I love these little bits and pieces that you're adding to the universe, and that the people are adding, and people are thinking about it and going, this is cool. So I like this because if you look in Firefly, one of the guns that they look through has the Wayland-Yutani symbol.
In the pilot, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's other things. So like in Blade Runner, one of the big arcologies that they fly past, again, has the Wayland-Yutani symbol. And the whole Joss Whedon thing is that it's Earth that was, because of alien hive Earth, potentially. And that's why we're not there now, because it's crawling with xenomorphs, you know, and now we're in the stars. But, you know, there's no such thing as alien. So,
yeah. No, I always thought that at some point in the future, Joss would introduce some form of alien, and it would likely be the ones from Alien 4 that he co-wrote.
And that's tremendous, right? Yeah. You're just like, oh, well, this is cool. And suddenly now even more terrifying. And maybe we should get those Reavers back to see if we can point them at the alien, see who eats who first, you know?
Well, I did wind up Thomas initially because I said, oh, there's no Alien 4 in here and Alien Resurrected. He said, oh, no, that's too far in the future of the timeline.
Yeah.
I said, only, you know, at some point that's going to go on to Firefly, and then we're going to have a Firefly role-playing game. And he said, no. He said,
head back to Earth, do a bit of Blade Runner there, you know, it all links up.
It's all connected. Everything's connected.
Fantastic.
We're coming up to the end of our time for today. So let's take a minute. Just let everybody know where they can find yourself and Dave and the Effekt podcast.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a long list of what do they call them? URLs. So our magazine show is on www.effektpodcast.org, and Effekt is spelt with a K, which is the Swedish way, and probably the German way and all sorts of other ways as well, but the Swedish way, effektpodcast.org. We also do weekly sort of hour-long sections of some of our home games on effektap.org, which is another thread, and currently we're running our playtest of Destroyer of Worlds. That was exciting as well, getting to be the first people to play that and making changes to it because it wasn't great. So yeah, that's happening in on that stream. You can find me on fictionsuit.org and Dave, this is his ego speaking, on rpggods.org. And they're both our blogs. We're also, of course, on YouTube. Do YouTube/C/Effekt podcast, and we're on Twitch as well.
Marvelous.
I think I
I've
might
just got
be
those into
Effekt.
the channel. Yeah, no, that's all good. Managed to get those into the Twitch chat. So we should have everything there, which is cool. That's amazing. What are you working on next? What are you looking forward to? Anything
Right.
coming
So
up? What
as I
you can
say,
tell us,
we're
obviously.
having an email conversation with Free League about what the convention circuit is going to mean for them and for us
For
next year.
2021. Lovely.
At the moment, I haven't. Oh, well, you've got a couple of Free League workshop projects coming out. So we've got an idea that we did ages ago on the podcast called Oases, which is when you start building up a relationship with a particular location. So I've done some rules for that. I've shared it with our patrons. I've had a little bit of feedback. Going to do a bit of a rewrite on that, but that'll be coming out on the Free League workshop quite soon.
Nice.
And Dave has got all sorts of stuff which should be coming out. But one of the exciting things is there's a chance that the adventure that he wrote for UK Games Expo this year may actually be a published adventure.
Awesome.
So
Very, very
fingers
cool.
crossed for that one. And that is called, what's that one called? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, one of his adventures that we've run, and I'm pretty sure we ran it during UK Games Expo on the channel. Yeah, that may turn out to be a published adventure, so he may be asked to.
That's
sort it
tremendous.
out.
So this is more reason why you should look at role-playing games, why you should look at demos of games, because this might well be your chance to play something that, you know, Matthew and Dave actually wrote, but actually turns out it's in the rulebook next year. So yeah, very, very
Well,
much so.
maybe that should be a final message to people who are watching this, particularly younger people, because I think when I was a teenager and we were being incredibly creative around our games, we thought the people that actually made those games were strange gods that were so different from what we were doing that we couldn't ever possibly join them. And actually, what I've come to realize is those guys were other teenagers like us, or only a little bit older than us at the time, and they're
Yeah.
my generation now when I meet them in the flesh. And so there's no reason why the creative energy that you're putting into your games now, young people, can't actually become things that you're never going to make a living out of it, but you may get paid for some of the work you do. If
Yeah.
only you've got the courage of your convictions, you share it around, and you build a bit of a reputation and make contacts with people, your stuff can
Yes.
be published too.
Absolutely.
That's an
Make
awesome
make your
message.
pretend and make your fantasy into a published reality. It's definitely possible. And also make sure you have a mate like Dave. He'll convince you to do things that you think, oh, I don't know. All right, let's do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it does help. You need to have his. I mean, why he didn't have it when he was a teenager? He was the youngest of us when we were teenagers, so he probably just kept patting him around the head and said, "Shut up, Dave." But yes, you need just have that little bit of the courage of your conviction that Dave has, or a mate like him that says, "We can make this happen,"
Let's do
and
this.
there's every chance you can make it happen.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Hallelujah, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us today, Matthew. It's been great chatting with you and finding out all the secrets and the things behind the Effekt podcast. I really would recommend everybody at least checks out a couple of the magazine shows, because they are brilliant in their format. They are, like you said, set up to be a little bit different than just waffling podcasts. As a producer of a waffling podcast, there's nothing wrong with waffling podcasts, but there's a lot of love gone into this this magazine show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to now apologise to all pairs of middle-aged old white men that make podcasts. I'm not saying that your product is crap by any means. I enjoy listening to those. I just thought we should try and be a little bit different.
So do check them out. We're gonna when we've finished wrapping up here, I recommend folks stick around on the channel, because yesterday evening we had a chat with Andrew Gasker about the Colonial Marines Operation Manual, which is the next book from the Alien RPG. We're going to broadcast that again on the channel, so stick around for that. And if you have a friendly local game shop or a favourite podcast you want us to have a chat with, do let us know, and you could see their beautiful faces on here with us next time we're alive.
Yes.
But yes, thank you very much for joining us, Matthew.
Thank you.
It's time to say goodbye, folks.
Bye-bye, folks.
Bye.